I'd get the Minister for Fisheries on the line. That is Bill Byrne. Good morning, Bill.
Yes, good morning, John. Good morning, listeners.
Just give us a bit of a indication of what the government is trying to do here with this, because it is starting to create a bit of a problem, I suppose. People are concerned about this net-free fishing zones and what it's going to do to the commercial fishing zone, the fresh fish being purchased and caught locally. So give us...
Well, listen, the policy was in development for many years. It was put together principally by Tim Mulheron, who's now retired. He had been a previous minister, and there'd been a considerable amount of consultation, if you like, initial consultation regarding this matter. And the policy was there to be announced during the election campaign. Now, I have personally, in the Rockhampton area, I've already polled my electorate on this issue on a number of occasions. I know exactly where the majority community sentiment rests on this matter in my own area. And it was developed and rolled out. What we're doing now is consulting with all the stakeholders with a view to implementing that policy. The areas that are under question here are quite modest in the scheme of things, and there are a couple of other things that are occurring in the background, not the least of which is the previous government commissioned an independent review of all fisheries issues in Queensland. That report was provided to the previous government but never released. It's known as the MRAG report. It's an independent arm's length review of all fisheries management in Queensland, and in due course we will be releasing that for a basis of further quite substantial discussion about fisheries management in Queensland. But it is a report that I've read, and it's a report that lays out a map, a strategic direction, if you like, for how fisheries is managed, and it will create a considerable amount of debate in communities about how the fisheries of Queensland are managed into the future. Also this year, there is a review going on into the Fisheries Act. It's my intention to try and parallel all of these things to have a completely different approach to how we manage fisheries in Queensland based on what can be done from the MRAG report.
Now, this net-free fishing zone, it hasn't been rubber-stamped yet, has it?
Well, it is an election commitment, and it's a policy we've developed.
But what I'm hearing is that this was put through like a day and a half before the election. Well,
the timing, it was put out in the last week, but the timing of the release of election policies is a matter for the campaign committee of each party. The policy has been sitting, waiting to be released for a considerable period of time. It's not up to me about what time and space is used for election campaign announcements. That's a matter for the election committee. I've been well aware of it. As I say, I polled my electorate.
Well, what did you poll? What did you poll?
The polls showed overwhelming support for this type of initiative, and I've received repeated approaches from members of the community insisting that we proceed with these measures. So I'm well aware and totally comfortable with where the majority of opinion sits on this matter, and that we'll be talking to all the stakeholders and looking to move forward to implement government's election commitment.
Have you spoken to commercial fishermen in the area? Have you sat down and had a meeting with them?
That's occurring as we speak. The department, government officials are at this moment engaging all stakeholders on the prospects of implementation of this policy.
You can understand their concern, can't you?
Of course I can. Of course I can. That's why we're consulting. That's why the fisheries is out there talking to all stakeholders associated with these opportunities. And of course I understand the concerns that they have, and part of the consultation will endeavour to alleviate those concerns.
Well, what I hear from the community is that if this goes ahead, that people won't be able to purchase fresh fish locally or enjoy it on the table, either at home or in a restaurant.
Well, I would refute that. That's a typical response. I don't agree with that point of view, and I find it interesting that much of the a concern being raised is from parts of the industry that are very remote from the provision of fish in central Queensland. So this is a broader issue impacting a lot more than simply this notion of fresh fish being on table. Now, I can assure you that a pensioner living in Wandle isn't going down to the fish shop and buying slabs barramundi. It's just a point of view that's put by industry. I accept their concerns, but we're happy to have a discussion with them about the way forward.
Well, I'm getting comments from the commission, from the fishermen that you're not available to comment or sit down and have a meeting, but you're now saying that you are going to do that.
Fisheries officers, as an appropriate project team, have been engaged for a period since we've come to government, moving this agenda forward.
Okay.
That is occurring as we speak.
All right.
And I simply don't reject the idea that that's not occurring. It is occurring. It's under the instructions I've given specifically to the fisheries officials, and that is happening.
Okay. If this goes through, you can understand there's going to be a massive domino effect. I mean, apart from the commercial fisheries, and then the government says that there is a compensation for it, and I don't fully understand that, but from what I hear, it's a very minimal amount. But the domino effect from bait shops, butcher shops with carcasses for the fishermen, the fuel, you name it, it just continues all the way down the line. What do you say about that, if this goes ahead?
Well, listen, the economic opportunity that will be presented for charter and guided and recreational fishing in these coastal estuarine systems will dramatically outweigh any modest economic problems or costs. That's what this is about. This is about actually doing something in policy terms to give tourism in central Queensland and other parts of Queensland a real shot in the arm. And everybody who's in the industry understands what this potentially means as far as real growth in our local economies. Central Queensland should be a fishing mecca. Rather than going to for a week to Northern Territory, people can come to Rockhampton with excellent accommodation and 3 feet away have that photo taken of a brilliant wild fish
I agree. I think it's
so that is what this is about, providing the vehicle.
But why hurt the commercial fishermen at the same time? Can't we all sit on the same field and play the same game?
Well, look, all I'll say is that we've developed this policy based on lengthy and extensive consultation with all stakeholders in this matter. The future is quite clear. The option that's being put forward is quite clear. The trajectory is going to be extremely positive, and we'll be talking to industry all the way through this.
All right, mate. Okay, well, I appreciate your time. As you can understand, there's a bit of concern out there. That's why we needed to have a chat to you about.
That's fine.
We'll no doubt follow this through with yourself to find out what is happening, when it's happening, when you're having discussions, and the report back from that as well, huh?
Sure, no problem.
All right. Thank you, Bill Byrne. Have a good Monday. Bye-bye.